This week on the Documentary Review podcast, Jonathan and I race to the bank to cash our paychecks because only one of those suckers is going to cash as we discuss the 2009 documentary Small Potatoes, Who Killed the USFL. Welcome to the podcast. I am PT.
I'm Jonathan. Glad you can join us.
Glad you can join us. And I think we should get out of the way right away. So the subtitle of this is Who Killed the USFL. We should just spoil that. It was Stephen Avery from Making the Murder. He killed the USFL.
Yes, and we have some very flimsy evidence to prove it that may or may not have been planted.
Nice. All right. So before we talk about this, first of all, our sometime co-host Greg was supposed to be here, and I was kind of excited for him to be here because I know you're not the world's biggest football fan, so I was hoping Greg would throw in a few good, be able to get excited about football a little bit.
Me too. I was like, oh, I'll be the odd man out, but it's better than just having one dude talking and the other guy being like, So spoiler alert, that could be the remainder of this podcast.
Right. But, there's other stuff to talk about, though.
There is lots.
We got stuff to talk. And hey, we may just spin off into some political talk on this episode. I have a feeling.
That's true. We got all kinds of options.
If you're offended by political talk, don't listen. Hey, Jonathan, did you know that you're the target of Kurt Cobain conspiracy theorists vitriol now?
No way.
Yeah, one dude commented on our podcast. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, Jonathan doesn't seem fit to make me a sandwich, let alone review this documentary. Which is great. And I jumped to your defense, though, and I replied and said, in Jonathan's defense, he makes an awesome sandwich.
Thank you.
My pleasure. So we got the Kurt Cobain conspiracy theorists mad at us. Let's see who we can get mad at us this time. Maybe the Trump supporters or something.
Maybe.
We'll see.
It's gonna be a hard group to offend, the Trump supporters. I mean, like, if Trump's your pony, I mean, he says a lot of offensive stuff all the time, and he's very controversial all the time. You'd think that would just be white noise if somebody commented one way or the other on the dude.
Right. If you Trump put out his first TV ad this week, have you seen that ad at all?
I have not.
I saw like through the whole Trump thing, like I've only read like reactions to what he said. I've not actually seen what he said. So like whenever I hear people be like, yeah, he wants to ban Muslims from the US or he wants to build a wall, I'm always like, well, that sounds crazy, but they're probably like, leaving some stuff out of that or a little bit. His TV commercial is literally ISIS is attacking. We must ban Muslims from the United States, and we're going to build a wall that Mexico will pay for. I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Like, that's pretty much the commercial.
No way.
He just flat out.
No way.
Yeah, totally look for the Donald Trump TV commercial when we're done here. It's just him flat out saying exactly that stuff.
So obviously he's gonna kill it in the 5% most conservative people. They're going to be like, this guy's a genius. We obviously need him as president.
Right.
But I would think the other 95% would go from shades of did I just see that? That guy is a lunatic. There's no way we can have him, as our president.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Am I off base on that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. And it's funny, too, the images they show, because when they're talking about building the wall, they just show, all these people just, charging across this wall and, climbing over it. It's like not quite the, World War Z levels, but, it's that kind of a thing where it's just, all these people just climbing over this wall, oh, my God, the Mexicans are invading. It's definitely the thing they're trying to get across on there. So,
wow. Crazy. So he's kind of the motivator behind ISIS.
Yeah, I guess.
Huh. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check it out. It sounds unbelievable.
All right, let's get into the documentary because before you get to your synopsis, I'm very curious what you think of this one because I don't know. I'm not sure where you're going to fall. I feel like you probably hated the football stuff, but maybe some of the other stuff you might have thought was interesting. So I'm very curious. Anyway, go ahead with your synopsis.
Okay. So Who Killed the USFL is 30 for 30, so a short documentary about a little blip on the or the history of football in America, about the small league called the USFL that kind of took a rival position to the NFL, except in the springtime. Uh, and it kind of showcased what went wrong with it. It was uh, you know, the documentary was done by somebody that really could tell supported and thought it was a good idea with a lot of potential, but in hindsight, it didn't work out at all. And a lot of the blame was given to Donald Trump, who makes a lot of appearances in the documentary. So it kind of covers his role in the USFL and its short-lived rise and fall. So that's
Nice.
yeah, pretty straightforward documentary.
Good explanation. All right, so give us your thumbs up or thumbs down. I'm on bated breath here.
I'm. It's gonna be really disappointing. I'm gonna say like a thumbs up. Yeah, I'm gonna go thumbs up, but I'm not very committed to anything on it.
All right,
but thumbs up.
Cool. Yeah, I gave it a thumbs up as well. I think it's a interesting documentary in that, like, I do think, I guess my criticism of it would be that, like, it tries to be a couple different things. It's like kind of some, like, the football highlights they show are cool, but like the business behind the scenes stuff was definitely the more interesting part to me. And it's kind of like they mix the sports footage with the business stuff, and I would like to see maybe more laser focus on one of the two. But I liked it overall.
Yeah, I kind of agree, but I think I see why they did it that way, just because you needed a little proof that it could have worked. So they should, they had to go back and show some cool sports moments from the USFL and like some of the great plays and players and games and things like that. Or at least that's how I took it. Because if they wouldn't have done that for me, I would have been like, well, you could say Donald Trump killed it, or you could just say it was a really crappy football league that would never work. So at least that way they supported the idea that there was potential, that the league had talent and some fan base.
Okay, you sold me. I'm back in on it.
You're back in, all right.
So Mike Tolan, I think is the name of the director. I looked him up on Internet Movie Database, and he's done a bunch of sports documentaries, and he's also directed some like cheesy sports movies. Like, I haven't seen these movies, so I can't say for sure. But do you remember the movie Summer Catch, which was a baseball movie starring Freddie Prinze Jr.?
I do not.
Well,
I'm intrigued already.
He directed that very movie. There's a couple other similar, like, kind of like very light sports movies that he's directed. So, guy with some sports experience. But he was the kind of like the NFL films guy of USFL. He was the film guy, and he like ran a highlight show every week and stuff like that. Kind of, what do you think of how the movie opens? Kind of the decision to like kind of start with the Donald Trump interview.
And when I first started watching, I was like, oh, this will be cool, because it like kind of sucked me in right away, and I was like, oh, here's where we get to see what a dick Donald Trump is. But but like in hindsight, like, so I mean, I guess it had a good draw, a good beginning to it. But I like, after finishing the documentary, I would have done it definitely in a different way. Like, I don't think Donald was as big of a part of the whole thing. It's he probably, they made him out to be, and they focused on him a lot. But and then that part at the end where they just like interviewed him briefly, was so meaningless, and like, that was the only time I was like, oh, I don't mind that Donald was such a dick in that part of it, because I mean, he's got a lot of stuff going on, and they pulled him in to talk about something that happened,
Right.
So a long time ago with no real consequence. So
nice. All right. So you're saying you're a supporter of Donald Trump. That's what I heard you say.
That's one poor way to interpret it.
Let's make America great again, says Jonathan. Interesting. Yeah, I'm curious. Like, it seems like it would be, because like right away when they started off the USFL football league, right away they drafted like a Heisman Trophy winner. Like right away they started getting some good players in there. seemed like that they really got off to a good start.
Yeah, and they really committed like that. And I think they did get off to a good start. I think there was really potential there. I mean, if there's potential to have the same sport in 2 different seasons of the year, and maybe there is. Maybe people watch football all year long and whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that's the interesting thing to me is that like at that time, football was way smaller than it is now. Now football's huge. Could a group of rich people do this now and make a go of it? Where football's way bigger business than it was then.
Oh, I think they totally could now for a couple reasons. One, football's bigger. Two, rich people are much richer.
Right.
You know that. You know, and plus, rich people are much more savvy with. You know, I mean, like Burt Reynolds was a general owner of one of the teams, and like, you know, I mean, that's funny and cool, but I mean, like, you know, I would imagine if you tried to put this together today, it would be a much more aggressive and well organized group of people with much deeper pockets, where the players wouldn't have to race to banks to cash their checks, which was hilarious.
Right.
But
Yeah, the other flip side of that though is they did say that at the beginning of this, NFL salaries were like $70,000. So
it was huge.
you would have to have a lot deeper pockets to make a go at some of like the top college recruits and stuff like that today.
Oh, right. But I was going to say, like, the thing that I thought was really interesting was that was probably the biggest impact of the USFL was that it changed NFL salaries. And,
Yeah.
like, you know, that's really what escalated a player salary in the NFL. Totally changed on that mark and that strength. Anyway, and then, but I mean, yeah, now you'd have to pay the players way more money, but I mean, you wouldn't have just one rich Texan that wanted to buy a football team and ran out of money and had to, like, you know, have the banks cash in the checks. You'd have hedge fund dudes, you know, each team would be backed by, you know, $4 or $5 billion, and, you know, the city would, and they're smart, you know, they'd have the cities paying for the stadiums and taking every crazy loophole they could get that they couldn't lose no matter what happened. I think.
It seemed like there was a lot of, at least some of the teams, a lot of really good promotions and a lot of crazy stuff that they did to promote themselves. Were there any of those stories that leapt out at you as far as the crazy things that they were doing in the stadiums?
I thought that was great. I mean, like, it was that's something I don't think they'd redo if they came back. Is like those guys were just having fun. I mean, they were being goofy and having fun with it and like trying crazy ideas, and like that part made me, you know, smile or happy or whatever. I think that'd be cool to see something like that today. But no, I mean,
I like the guy who won $1 million, but it was gonna be $50,000 for 20 years, starting in 20 years.
right.
I wonder if that guy ever saw it.
I totally want to know if they followed through on that at all.
He should be like right in the middle of his 20 years right now, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure they were just like, well, sorry, USFL went bankrupt, so not seeing any of it.
What a sweet promotion. They should have read their promotion every day.
Totally, yeah. Well,
everyone in the stadium gets $1 million. That'd be great.
Right, you all have to take numbers, and as soon as the person in front of you gets done getting their 20 years of stuff, then it's your turn.
Nice. What was, so you mentioned Burt Reynolds. What was the deal with so most of the interviews were like, you know, straight on as I'm looking at you at the camera. When they were filming Burt Reynolds, it was like super weird angles. Like, I wonder if he's like, yeah, no, you have to shoot me from this one particular angle, or what's the deal?
You didn't know that about Burt? Yeah, Burt Reynolds is so freaking cool that if a camera focuses directly shot on at him, it just breaks. Just can't handle the extreme awesomeness of Burt Reynolds. So you have to angle it to the side so the lens doesn't catch that full exposure.
Nice.
Everybody knows that.
All right, and looks like we have another host joining the call. Welcome, Greg. Welcome. We're live on the air.
Yeah, we've never had a mid-cast host join in, so
hello,
this is first.
Nice.
Hello.
Is that a scarf you're wearing? I approve.
No, it's not. It's not a scarf.
Oh, okay.
It's a hoodie.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So you're joining kind of midstream here. I would like to take this opportunity. First of all, thank you for joining. Second of all, I would like you to say whether you like this documentary, thumbs up or thumbs down, and then give your predictions on whether Jonathan and I gave it a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
All right. I liked it mainly for the fact that I didn't even know this existed. Like this was like something I had never heard of before. I didn't know this football league existed. And I would say Tyler liked it and Jonathan didn't like it. That's my guess.
Nice, not bad. You're 50-50 on your guesses. we both gave it a mild thumbs up. We both liked it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a good guess though, because obviously I'm not a football guy of the group, so I had heard of the players. So
You're just a negative person anyway, so. Oh yeah, I totally heard it. I heard of a bunch of them.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, Herschel Walker, I know who that is. Sweet. He must be pretty big in football.
I was pretty surprised with Steve Young and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jim Kelly.
We were just talking about how crazy is it that they started this league and like right away in their first year they drafted a Heisman Trophy winner of Herschel Walker, and in the next 2 years a Heisman Trophy winner too. Could something like this happen today if you had rich people with deep pockets who wanted to start something like this?
Yeah, no, I'm curious as to what like they could have made if they joined the NFL instead. Like the price difference.
Wait. You're curious to see if who would have joined the NFL instead? The whole league or just those
Herschel
Heisman
Walker.
winners?
Like just this the high. I'm assuming that's why they joined that league is because they could just make probably twice as much money in this league than in the NFL.
Right. I think it was a lot more than twice as much. I think there was, because they said like the average NFL player during that time period got a salary of like $75,000 a year, and Herschel Walker got $4 million. Was like they said at the time was a record-setting, contract, and then it was after that the NFL, like I think solely because of the USFL, caused a huge jump in player salaries. So at least it left that mark on the game.
I'm curious why that worked. Why did that cause a big jump? Like, because it was after the USFL went out of business and all those people went and joined the NFL. Why wasn't the NFL just been like, guess what? We can't afford to pay you that much. This is how much we pay, and also we're the only league again. So why does that lead to a big price increase?
Yeah, well, I bet you those prices.
I think it.
Go ahead, Greg.
Well, I was just thinking that it just probably because it put a spotlight on how much money the NFL was making. The players probably didn't realize how much money that they were generating, and so that's why they didn't ask for more money.
Yeah, I would love to see the breakdown of how, like, when and how those salaries went up, because I bet you every single NFL player was like, as soon as Herschel Walker, a college kid, got a $4 million salary, they were in the GM's office the next day being like, what the heck? Our league is 10 times better than theirs. You guys make 10 times more money, and I've made you millions of dollars, and you can't pay me a third of what you're paying this kid that's fresh out of school. And that had to piss off so many players. And then they were pulling players from the NFL. The USFL was. So I'm sure at that point there were some real negotiations going on. You uncap a bottle, you can't put the cork back on that. You're just like, well, now players realize that they can actually fight and get bigger salaries, and I'm sure probably sports agents were just like, whoa, now I want to be a sports agent. Now this is something where I can dive in and like start manipulating, the teams and the salaries and doing all that stuff. So I think it was just a catalyst for all that to happen. But I bet you it happened right after the USL first started. So that'd be a good documentary for me right there, watching how salary went from 75 grand to whatever the heck it is now.
Yeah, there's a good another 30 for 30 that's about I forget what it's called. I think it's called like Shoe Man or something. It's like about the sports agent who was like the first kind of guy to like start getting shoe contracts and stuff like that for NBA players. And he was also the first guy who would like go to prospects and get them to wear Nike and stuff like that. And he was definitely a huge catalyst getting NBA players to realize their market value. So,
Yeah, he was actually one of the documentaries we watched.
yeah, that's right.
Schooled.
Yep.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was in Schooled. The whatever subtitle that was about college, how crappy it is that college athletes can't profit from their sport.
Right.
Yeah, seemed like a cool guy.
Yeah.
Changed the world, kind of.
Nice, nice. So another kind of lasting impact of the USFL was some rule changes, right? We got the 2 point conversion and instant replays, which I was pretty surprised to learn that stuff came about in the USFL. Pretty big rules.
But the
Right.
the 2 point conversion and instant replay are relatively new for the NFL.
Much newer than 1985. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I would say the 2 point conversion's only been around for like 3 or 4 years, maybe. And then the
What?
instant replay is maybe 10 years, 15 years.
Wait, 2 point. The 2 point conversion has only been around for a few years in the NFL. You couldn't.
Yeah. No, that's new.
Oh, that's news to me, man. I just assumed, I thought that had been around forever, or like a long time.
No, like it was no. Like that's new, and then the instant replay, like yeah, I'm pretty sure that red flag, that's only been like 10 years.
All right, get us years on that. Somebody. I'm curious.
All right, I'm on it.
You're on it, okay.
All right, Greg. Well, and Jonathan, you look up because I need you for this, Greg.
Okay.
Greg, let's
All
say
right, I'm in.
you're the USFL commissioner. It's 1985. What new rule would you like to implement to change the game of football?
No one by the name of Donald Trump could be anywhere near being an owner of this any fucking team. Anything. Oh, it's unbelievable.
Nice.
Okay.
All right.
Two-point conversion's been around in the NFL since 1994. So.
94.
Yeah. So we're talking 2 decades.
I don't think so.
Well,
I'm gonna say no on that one.
I'm getting it from multiple web sources. Apparently, after the NFL merged with the AFL, the rule did not immediately carry over to the merged league, though they experimented, blah, blah. The NFL adopted the 2-point conversion rule in 1994.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I would do away with punting. Let's get rid of punting. let's just go for it.
Actually, no, that's not bad. That's not a bad idea. Actually, just you have to go for it all the time.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. That seems like a much more interesting sport.
Or maybe we could give them one punt a game or something, just to keep the punt.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Employed a little bit there. All right, should we get into Trump because he's
I think we're there.
One of the big stars of the league. What were your so let me just ask a broad question here, which is, what can we learn? Can we learn anything about Trump, the way he does business as a person from watching this microcosm of Trump? What can we learn about him?
Boy, he is so sure of himself to a fault. Like that was what I kept seeing, like in this, where he reminded me, like, you see it all the time in very young adults, like when when kids are 16, they're just like, whatever, gay marriage is totally wrong, that's just stupid, why would you ever do that? And then, like, by the time they're like in their mid-20s, they're like, oh well, I've experienced life, I know a whole bunch more people, and yeah, obviously that makes sense. Or whatever, if you fill in a million blanks to that, where your kids are just super opinionated at the age of 16, 17, 18, and then after time they slow down and they realize, like, oh, the world is much more complex than I thought. They change their views. They're much slower to, like, wholeheartedly commit to something. Like, in the course of this documentary, Trump is basically like, greatest thing ever, USFL, so much future, it's amazing. And then, like, 1 year later, he's like, that's just a stupid thing, care about it, even though whatever. But I didn't do anything wrong. I shouldn't have learned anything from hindsight. Everything I did was completely correct. It's like, wow, no, he just had a ton of learning like experiences there that he should have learned from and gained and grown. But he was just like, no, I did everything perfectly. And so I was like, wow, it's probably a huge character flaw.
Yeah, that was my biggest takeaway too. It's just that he's like complete lack of being able to just see. I don't know if do you think do you think that's sincere? Like he just doesn't think he did anything wrong, or do you think he just won't admit to doing anything wrong?
I would think he won't admit. I guarantee you there had to be a time because like I'm sure he dumped a ton of money into his team and all that stuff. And the day that like after the court case and the whole league folds, he had to take a bath on that. He had to look back and be like, lay awake in bed and be like, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or I wish I would have, not tried to move the league, or he had to have some regrets. He had to.
Well, do you think he was really trying to get an NFL team franchise for like bargain basement price? Do you think that was his whole scheme?
Possibly. I mean, there could have. It would be great to have that answer. I don't think we'll ever get it, but like, it could have been a million things. It could have been just he wanted, like the one guy said, he just wanted to be like show like I own a team and he couldn't get an NFL, and so he did this. Or it could have been a long-term goal, like like he had this big huge strategy that didn't quite work out for him to get a team. I don't know. I would respect him more if that was his game and it just didn't work. But
you respect him more for that? See, like, I don't know. I just don't. At least. I just don't. They just didn't really. I think the movie did a good job, and maybe they just don't know why. But like, they didn't really give a good reason for why they were moving from the spring to the fall. Like, because it seemed like they were doing pretty good in the spring. Why would you move to the fall when, like, in the spring you have no competition, but in the fall you're directly in competition with the NFL? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, that did seem like the dumbest move on planet Earth. But they were struggling. I mean, like they kind of gloss over how the league was struggling. But if you can't cash the paychecks, if some of the owners are literally going broke, and they did mention that they like at one point I think it was actually Trump that's like 4 or 5 of the owners were essentially bankrupt. So it could have been a big play on their part where they were just throwing a Hail Mary pass out there, just be like, oh man, we gotta. I don't know. Again, I still agree. I don't know how moving to the fall is going to like help anyone.
Yeah, it made no sense. That was the thing that just made no sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just that lawsuit. They're like, oh, we're gonna get rich off this lawsuit or whatever.
Oh, that could be.
I know that's why I think Donald Trump's plan was. That's what I was saying. Like his plan was the lawsuit from day one. It was create this league, and then move it to the fall, and because you saw like we can go with the lawsuit, the antitrust monopoly lawsuit, and then either make a quick buck or get ourselves into the NFL, one or the other.
Yeah. Yep, which neither happened.
That was pretty funny result of the
actually,
lawsuit.
technically, you're right. He did make a quick buck. So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly $1.
I did like that moment where the filmmaker showed Donald Trump the check, and Donald Trump was just like, all right, yeah, this interview's over, buddy. It's like clearly a little pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great example that obviously he does look back and does have regrets and all that stuff. Because otherwise, if you would have showed him that check, he would have been like,
he would have laughed it off or
laughing.
something.
Like,
yeah,
I think legitimately laughed. Like if you would have showed me something like that from my past that I truly hadn't thought about in 20 years, and I was never pissed about it, and like had moved far beyond it, and you showed me the actual check from that lawsuit of $3, I think I would literally crack up. Like, I can't believe this still exists. This is hilarious. Can I frame this and keep it? Like that would be great.
Yeah, it's a good story.
But he was obviously immediately irate. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a little insight, background insight. So before this movie was released, they sent it to Trump or whatever. Mike Tomlin did the director, and he hold on, I got to bring it up here. So he wrote him a letter that said, "Dear Donald, as promised when we were together last spring, I've enclosed a rough cut of our USFL film. I'm guessing you won't love all of it, but I hope you appreciate that I've tried to be fair and objective and tell the story as it's remembered by the participants. We're currently setting up a premiere screening in New York for the middle of October, and I hope you'll join ESPN and the filmmakers and the other alumni from the USFL for what should be an amazing evening. Again, thank you for your participation in this project. And so Trump's response was he in a Sharpie, wrote this on the letter and then sent it back to him. He wrote, Mike, a third-rate documentary and extremely dishonest, as you know. Best wishes, Donald Trump. P.S. You are a loser with loser underlined.
No, that cannot be the response.
Yes, I'm looking at
That's
the
unbelievable.
scan of that. Awesome.
Okay, now please tell me I'm incorrect in this. Is Donald Trump currently running for president of the United States of America? That's just like an internet I heard, right? It's like dress floor and Donald Trump's running for president. That's just rumors on the internet. I know it.
And even if he was doing it, he'd be doing really bad, I think, right? He'd doing a really poor job.
Right. I mean, it would be like a laughing. It would be like a joke. Like comedians would talk about it. Like, just so far distant in the polls, it was laughable. I'm sure that's how it is, right? I'm not gonna do any more research on that, though.
Yeah, let's just keep that dream world going.
You can't. Yeah. Anyone that resorts to the same stuff that my 5-year-old daughter resorts to.
Yeah.
Yes. Good old.
Or they.
No, and that's kind of been Donald Trump's thing. He's like that bully. And he says it. If they come after us, I'm going to go after you. You know.
Yeah.
If you said that thing nicely to me, it depends on how he said it. You know, if you said that nicely, then that's all in good fun. But if he said it meanly, I'm going to go after him. You know.
Yeah, that's talking about like an old man who's like a former announcer of the USFL. Like, who cares if he says something mean about you, Donald Trump? Like,
yeah.
Right, and it was only mildly mean. I mean, like
mildly. It was
wasn't
so mild.
Yeah.
It was a very tame insult. Let's put it that way.
Trump's. Yeah, and he took it that. It's like I will attack him or destroy him. Wow. You must have a lot of attacking going on, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that it doesn't take much to get on his attack list. Okay. We're probably on it right now. I know I am.
Can you imagine being Trump's like personal assistant or whatever? Because it's got to just be all day like, Lillian, write down. We got to destroy this person. Said something mean about me. All right, Don. Fine. Put it on the list. Yeah.
Oh man.
All right, cool. Well, that's everything I had to bring up. Anything else you guys wanted to discuss on this one?
I don't know. Would you guys rather have the USFL, a fun-loving league that, like, kind of allows like celebration and something much lighter, something the NFL, it's a very serious thing, and side versus some people having fun? What the current like the USFL?
You cut out there for a minute. Is your question, would we prefer that the USFL or the NFL if we had to smite one from existence?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, you could change the NFL, but just to have it more fun and lighthearted like the USFL was, or would you rather see it in the current state of a much more serious sporting thing?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I guess more fun would be good. It's like sports is such a weird thing. I was thinking about that when I was watching the celebrations. Like I remember when I was a little kid, like I can't remember who it was, but there was some professional football player who did some celebration, and I remember like it was one of our teachers, I think, is Zaya, just being like, "Oh my God, like that is not like sportsman like that is terrible." And I just remember thinking, "Oh, what a terrible person! I can't believe they would celebrate like that." Oh my God, it was just like so upset and ashamed for that person. But I mean, I was like, who cares if they celebrate? But I mean, like your point is taken in that like the NFL is kind of like a persona, and like if you think of like the whole NFL films thing is like super like cinematic music and like slow motion blocks, and like it's very like cinematic, very important. So yeah, it is definitely a different personality. It'd be fun to see the league that takes itself less seriously for a bit, I'd say.
The only
For me,
real
I think
issue I have with the current NFL, sorry, the only issue I have with the current NFL is the fact that I just don't feel like they take care of their ex-players. I mean, like it's obvious America loves football. It's obvious, it creates an enormous amount of wealth for people. But then the guys who participate in it like have serious health issues afterwards. Now, granted, it is kind of their choice, and they are getting paid for it. But there should be some sort of I mean, the league should take care of these people. At least they're like, at least medically speaking. I mean, they don't take care of their families, but they should take care of the medicals. Like if there are lasting effects, which there are lasting effects of football.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely really agree with that, especially because I mean, you brought up the good point or the good argument to that yeah, they kind of know what they're getting into. I really take into factor there is these are kids. I mean, these are kids straight out of college. They don't know anything about anything, and we are, totally taking advantage of them in a lot of ways. I mean, like, yes, it is a dream come true for them and all that stuff, and they do get quite a bit of money, but they are still just like their heads spinning by the time they're walking off the field for the last time. They still haven't, got their bearings and grown up. So yeah, we should help them out afterwards because they're gonna more broke. We should help. We people of dollars off the backs of
Yep, and too, like the people who are ex-players now, probably a lot of them did not realize quite the extent of the danger they were putting themselves in from. Like obviously it's dangerous and they know that, but they probably didn't understand the gravity of all the concussions and all that stuff. But yeah, totally agree with what you're saying. All right, so give me some stars, gentlemen. How many stars out of 5 are you going to give Small Potatoes? Or how many potatoes out of 5? Maybe we should do.
All right, I'll go. Is a pretty neutral one, right in the middle.
What did you say you cut out for the star part from you?
Yeah.
I said 2. So it was right in the middle for me. So, yep.
How about you, Gregory?
I'll go 3.5 on this one.
Nice.
I did like it. I mean, I liked the one thing I really liked about it was like it was very obvious. It was very personal. The guy making the movie was very personal, and you could tell he had a very positive feeling towards it and everything, and I did like that. Even when like Donald Trump totally dissed him, he didn't really like dwell on it. He didn't really like try and make Donald Trump look bad or anything. He just kind of just showed it, and that was it. He just moved on. I did like I like that.
Cool, good deal. I was gonna say 3.5 stars as well. I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Like we didn't touch on any of the actual like football play, but there was definitely some cool plays that they showed and stuff like that too. And it's clear that there was a lot of talent in the league, so I like that part of it. And I did think it was really interesting to see the some of the business stuff behind it at least. So there we go. That was Small Potatoes. Who Killed the USFL? Check it out on Netflix. Let us know your thoughts. You can contact us, feedback at documentaryreviewpodcast.com. Send your thoughts on whether you feel Jonathan is qualified to make a sandwich or not. That's a joke from before you joined, Greg.
Got it.
So there we go. All right, next week we're going to change things up a little bit. We're going to be discussing the Netflix documentary series, Making a Murderer. A hot topic on the internet these days. We're going to be...
Yeah, my wife is watching that right now downstairs in my house.
Nice.
Actually.
Yeah. If you go join her for it, then you can come back next week and we'll discuss it.
That's right.
No way. Give me the fluff pieces like football and stuff like that. I'll handle that.
Nice. Yeah, if we want to do this, Jonathan, what if we piss off our local police departments and could be a problem.
It could be.
Get ready for me to dislike this documentary and say that I'm fully in support of law enforcement.
Law enforcement in every shape.
Yes.
Especially by local jurisdictions. Anywhere I am, just where law enforcement is fair. All right, for my recommendation for this week, I want to recommend a book called The Console Wars, which this documentary made me think of. It's a book I just finished reading that's about basically Sega versus Nintendo, like the backstage business dealings in like the late '80s of how like Sega came out of nowhere, and like the business genius of how they like came and briefly overtook Nintendo, and then also like how they so quickly fell from grace. But it's a really cool book because it's definitely written like a thriller or whatever, but it's like just this book about these two businesses in the '80s. And it's very interesting. It's really cool too to hear like the backstory behind, like they'll be describing this great new thing, and then I'll be like, hey, wait a minute, I remember that commercial. It was awesome. So yeah, I recommend it. It's called The Console War. Yeah.
Cool. Hey, I have one too, but I might need your help on actually the recommendation. But this 30 for 30 made me think of it. Remember there's a short documentary on the history of the high five.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember the name of that?
Oh man, that's yeah. I don't remember the name of that. It was a short 30 for 30.
Oh, there we go. 30. Yeah, it's called 30 for 30 shorts. The high five. It's only like 10 minutes long, but literally probably the best possible 10-minute documentary you can watch. So if you've got a little time to kill and you're curious about the history of the high five, check it out.
Yeah, that was good. That was a great recommendation.
Thank you.
Yes. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for watching and or listening. We will talk to you next week. This is PT. Keep it real.
This is Jonathan. We'll see you next week. And that's
Good night.
Greg.
That's Greg. Signature sign.